Alright, so this is number 7 on your review for part 2.1. Okay, you're asked to write the quadratic function in standard form, which really means vertex form. Okay, so we have to complete the square. So you're going to factor out your a, which is a -2. Okay, and remember when you're factoring out, it comes out of these first two terms, the quadratic term and the linear term. So you have t squared minus 2t, and then we'll do our plus box. The constant is on the outside, minus box. Okay, and then to figure out what goes in your box, it's half of your b, so -2 divided by 2, squared. Don't forget to square the negative, so your answer is a +1. Okay, remember you have to multiply the box on the inside by your a that you factored out. So that's -2, and that's what goes in your box outside. So now when we clean this up, we have -2, and then we'll have t, and then remember it's half your b, which was -1, so -1 squared. Combine like terms on the outside. Minus a negative is plus, so 1 plus 2 is 3, so +3. So this is vertex form of your quadratic. We can identify the vertex. It's the opposite of what's in parentheses, so a +1, and what's on the outside, so a +3. That means your axis of symmetry is x equals 1, because it's x equals h. Okay, you go to graph this. Okay, you'll start with your vertex, which is at 1, 3, so we're going to be in quadrant 1. So I'll draw my lines about here. And we know this graph is going to open down because of this negative on the a. That means it opens down. Okay, so my vertex is at 1, 3. Okay, remember the parent function was 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 4. Okay, over 1, up 1, over 2, up 4. Okay, ours is -2 is our a though, so that means we multiply our y by -2, so this is still 0. Okay, this would be 1 times -2 is -2. 4 times -2 is -8. Okay, so we're going to go over 1, down 2, over 2, down 8 from this vertex. So over 1, down 2 in both directions. Over 2, down 8. Okay, and you need to draw your axis of symmetry as a dotted line. So at x equals 1, well, that's not a dotted line. Let's try that again. You'll have your vertical line there for your axis of symmetry, and then you can sketch your graph. Hopefully, maybe yours looks a little better than mine. The last part also asks for your x-intercepts. So remember, to get your x-intercepts, you take your original function in standard form, set it equal to 0, and solve. Okay, in this case we're solving for t. If you cannot factor, okay, which in this case this cannot be factored, okay, then you have to use quadratic formula, which we talked about in class. So quadratic formula is -b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so you got to identify your a, b, and c. So a is -2, b is 4, and c is 1. So if we plug all of this in, b is 4, 4 squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. Okay, take it step by step. Let's simplify what's under the radical first. Okay, so all of this right here, we're going to simplify. 4 squared minus 4 times negative 2 times 1. 4 squared is 16 minus 4 times negative 2 is negative 8 times 1, negative 8. So minus negative 8 is actually plus. So 16 plus 8 is 24. So we have the square root of 24, which is not a perfect square, so we have to do our little factor tree. Multiples of 24, there's several. You can start with any. We'll just start with 2 and 12. 2 is prime, it stops. You keep going with 12. Keep going with 6. Okay, and now we're all to prime numbers. Pick out your pairs. So here's a 2 and a 2. That's a pair, so a 2 can come out. Okay, these do not have pairs. They have to stay in. So 2 times 3 is 6. So a 6 stays in the square root. So this square root of 24 simplifies to 2 square root of 6. So we have negative 4 plus or minus 2 square root of 6 over 2 times negative 2, which is negative 4. Ignore the announcement. You can simplify this. We're going to split this. This is negative 4 over negative 4. 2 square root of 6 over negative 4. Negative 4 divided by negative 4 cancels. That does not mean it goes away. It's not 0. It's 1. So you still have to write 1 plus or minus. And then 2 over square root of negative 4 is negative 1/2. Okay, here you really don't have to write this negative because we're doing plus and minus. It doesn't matter because if we do plus a negative, that's minus. If we do minus a negative, that's plus. Either way, we're adding it and subtracting it. So you can write this without the negative. Okay, so this would be your x's or your roots would be 1 plus or minus the square root of 6 over 2. Okay. The next one in this section is number 9. Same steps. First, complete your square. Factor out that a. Do your plus box, minus box on the outside. Okay, find out what goes inside. Our b is 1, so half squared is 1/4. Multiply that by what's out here. That is 1. Rewrite it. This is vertex form. Your vertex is negative 1/2, 12. Your axis of symmetry is x equals negative 1/2. You graph it. This is going to be graphed kind of high on the y-axis. So I'll start my graph pretty low down here. Okay, and I'm actually going to scale my axis to count by 2s so I can fit this in. So this is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Okay, and my x-axis will still count by 1s. Okay, so half, negative half, 12. It's going to be right here. Okay, my a is 4. That means I'm multiplying my y values by 4. Instead of over 1, up 1, I'm going to go over 1, up 4 in both directions. Okay, that's going to take me off my graph. 3 points is enough to sketch, so you can just use those 3 points. Notice there are no x-intercepts. Okay, so when you go to find your x-intercepts after graphing this, you should realize these are going to be imaginary because that doesn't cross the x-axis. Okay, so when you set this equal to 0 to find your roots, your a is 4, b is 4, and c is 13. Quadratic formula. x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So we're plugging these values in. Negative 4 plus or minus 4 squared minus 4 times 4 times 13 all over 2 times 4. We're going to simplify underneath first. 4 squared minus 4 times 4 times 13. Okay, when you simplify this, you get 16 minus, and then you have to do 4 times 4, which is 16, times 13, which is 208. So minus 208. When you do that subtraction, you get negative 192. Okay, so we have square root of negative 192. You can do your factor tree. If you know of something that 192 is divisible by, you can start with that. If not, you know it's even, you can just do 2. But some of the multiples are 12 and 16. So 12 splits to 6 and 2, 3 and 2. 16 is 2 and 8, 2 and 4, 2 and 2. So there's several pairs here. Here's a pair of 2's. Here's a pair of 2's. Here's a pair of 2's. So 2 gets to come out 3 times. So 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So an 8 is on the outside. Okay, so 8 got to come out. The 3 is still under there. Okay, the negative gets to come out as I. So we have negative 4 plus or minus 8 square root of 3i over 8. Simplify. So we're going to split this. The 8's cancel here, and this reduces to negative 1/2 plus or minus square root of 3i. Those are your roots. They're imaginary, because in your graph you can see it doesn't actually cross the x-axis. Okay, we're stopping this video here.